My name is Randolph Love III. I am the founder and CEO of ShieldWolf Strongholds, a wealth growth and protection company. I like to say if you want to retire higher than you would have prior, make sure you visit my website. Just so you know, it's very important to understand that all truths are parallel. Has anybody ever heard that phrase, that all truths are parallel? What that means was usually true and workable in one facet of life is also true and workable in another, right? You don't just eat any food, you check the source. You don't just drink any water, you check the source. A lot of you came here to Cooper's Hawk because you knew the source of the food was good, right? A lot of you are drinking water out of a straw because you don't know the source of that glass, right? It's all about knowing the source. The same goes for knowledge. You must know the source. Before I get into the knowledge that I'm about to share with you, I want to tell you the source. My name is Randolph Love III. I'm a chartered financial consultant, chartered life underwriter, chartered property casualty underwriter, fellow Life Management Institute, retirement income certified professional. And this year I'm working on my chartered advisor and philanthropy designation. My friends like to say you have more letters after your name than in your name. Right? And yes, that's true. But all that means is I'm good at taking a standardized exam. What if I read a book about swimming for 5 years, but I never got in water? Do I know how to swim? Here's how I swim. I'm a registered pre-licensed and continuing education provider with the Florida Department of Financial Services. I provide training and consulting to corporate, federal, state, and local governing agencies. Over the past 3 years, I've taught over 1,000 adult students and helped them get their licensing and with continuing education. I do assist individuals and business owners with effective tax minimizing wealth strategies, and I have almost 2 decades of experience in the insurance and financial services industry. I actually just turned 40 this past December, right? So I told you the good stuff. Now the disclaimer. I am not an attorney. Everybody say he is not an attorney. And this is information, not advice. I'm going to say this is information. You're going to say not advice. This is information. This is information. This is information. Did the attorneys hear it? No lawsuits tonight, all right? No lawsuits. I'm telling you general information, but until I actually speak with y'all on an individual basis, we don't know for sure if this applies, all right? So I like to start my presentations off with a little trivia, right? So just imagine, how is this possible? You have 2 married couples, both of them retiring with $500,000 in investments. They both listened to their traditional advisor, and they're withdrawing approximately 5% a year from their investment, which is $25,000 each. They're both getting an average return of 6%, so that's $30,000 a year. They have inflation adjustment, and just so y'all know, do y'all know what inflation is? I'm not talking about how I look in this shirt. I'm saying, do you know what inflation is? All right. So inflation is basically the difference of what something cost last year versus what it costs this year. And how many people know that the average inflation is approximately 2 to 3%? And I said average. We've been experiencing hyperinflation lately, right? And how much interest is your money earning in a traditional savings account? Less than 1%. So what that means is every year, without even doing anything different, your money is worth less than it was the year prior when you compare it to the inflation. But they had an inflation adjustment of 3% a year. And then at the age of 78, one had negative $12,143 in their account, and the other had $1,132,964 in their account. Who knows how this is possible? They knew somebody like me. Why is one couple broke? Why does one of the couples double their money? Well, I'm going to give you the first hint. Who's the worst business partner? Sounds very familiar. What if I told you that I wanted to go into business with you, right? And I want you to do all the work. I want you to put up all the money. I want you to pay for all the conferences. I want you to go to all these events. I want you to shake all the babies, kiss all the hands. Or is that the other way around? But whenever you make a profit, I want my percentage. I want at least 30%. No, as a matter of fact, I want 50%. No, as a matter of fact, I want the right to change my mind at what my cut is at any time without doing any work. Would y'all take me on as a business partner? Y'all already got that business partner. The IRS, the Internal Revenue Service. And we got a CPA in the building, man. You love the IRS, right?
No, I hate the IRS.
That's the only way you can wear Versace shirts, right? You can't be friends with the IRS to wear Versace shirts because an IRA is just an IOU. Okay? So this is how that one couple ended up like that. All right. So their Social Security, they were pulling out $25,200 for John, $22,800 for Mary, and the IRA had, y'all ever heard of something called required minimum distribution? Yes. What that means is we don't care how good of a steward you were with your money. Once you reach a certain age, we're going to make you pull this money out. Nobody gets robbed on the way to the bank. They get robbed leaving the bank. And as you're reaching retirement and hit retirement, you're leaving the bank according to the government. And that's when they come for it, right? So John had an IRA required minimum distribution of $12,000. Mary had an IRA required minimum distribution of $8,000. And so that leaves, and that gives them well, that's how much they were pulling out. That gives them a total income of $68,000. But the federal tax, $5,040. State tax, now Florida, we don't have to deal with state tax, right? But a lot of people have to deal with state tax, $2,100. And tax on Social Security, $4,488. How many of y'all knew that your Social Security was going to be taxed? You already knew? And do you feel like it's inevitable? There's no way to go against it. Your Social Security is going to get taxed regardless? There are ways to do it. You just have to legitimately and legal reduce what the IRS call your provisional income. There are ways to make it to where you have money coming in, but it's not counted as provisional income. And if you don't have provisional income, then your Social Security won't get taxed. It's funny how life works. As I got older, I realized how counterintuitive life was. The broker you are, the more you want it to look like you make on paper. But the wealthier you are, the less you want it to look like on paper. Right? So here's how the different couples did it. They both were pulling out the same amount, but guess what? Right here, federal tax is $0. State tax is $0. Do y'all know how that's possible? I'm going to show you. Right? So anybody know how much a dollar doubled 20 times is? So one day is $1. The second day is $2. The third day is $4. And then $8 and then $16. How much does that equal after doing it 20 times?
A lot.
Said the CPA. Yes. $1,048,576. That's amazing, right? That's the power of compounding interest. But what happens when you add just 25% tax rate to that? It knocks it down to $72,570.64. I know we got some wealthy individuals in the building, and if you're not wealthy yet, you will be. So you might end up at over 30% tax rate. That knocks it down to $27,362.05. So one of the first things that you need to do is figure out how to legitimately avoid taxes. I didn't say illegally evade taxes. How do you legitimately avoid taxes? Because here's the thing. You can run a red light every day of your life until that one time you get caught, until that one time you get audited. So you want to make sure that if you have strategies going on that and you doing it the right way. So, question for y'all. Would you like to pay the most possible taxes on your retirement accounts or the least possible taxes on your retirement accounts? The least, right? So another trivia question. Will future taxes rates be lower, the same, or higher? We don't know, but if you had to guess, what would you say? C, higher, right? Now, before I proceed, I always like to ask this question so I know who's in the room. Is there anyone here who doesn't like when others find loopholes to legally avoid paying taxes? Raise your hand. And if you're too ashamed to raise your hand, I know it's at least one person in here. But I need to say this for y'all. Don't be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't accept something better. Even if you are a red-blooded American that wants to pay your taxes, which I'm not saying don't pay your taxes. I don't mind paying taxes. A big part of taxes go toward defending us. Some people say we're starting the fights that we need defending against. But a good part of that is necessary. But if you had the option of instead of giving it to, and one more question, do you think the government is handling your tax dollars wisely or unwisely?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
So even if you are a red-blooded American who believes in paying your taxes, I think most of you will say, yeah, I believe in paying taxes, but they're not handling it the best way possible. If you had the option, because I'm not telling you to be greedy. Some people think that I'm saying legally avoid taxes means that you're a greedy person. No, I'm saying if you had the option of instead of giving it to an entity that you all agree aren't handling it wisely, but to keep it to yourself and distribute it to the people, the family, the friends, the charities that you know, like, and trust, to where you can see it working in front of your eyes and see it actually handled like a steward, wouldn't you prefer that? All right. So that's how we're going to do it. So remember I said all truths are parallel, right? What creative things can you do with baking soda? Now, I grew up in Sherwood. I'm not talking about what they do with baking soda. I'm saying what creative things can you do with baking? I heard brush your teeth. Anybody else? What creative things? Clean. You can take a bath.
You can also drink it.
You can drink it. Oh, man. What? Lisa? Children's volcanoes, right? Hey, listen, it's a mouthwash. It's a teeth whitener. It's a deodorant. It's a fridge neutral. It's an air freshener. It's a whitening agent for laundry. It's a kitchen cleaner. It's a garbage odor eliminator. It's a kid's volcano. But you know, when I ask people what creative things you can do with baking soda, most people never actually say what it was made for. It was made for baking.
Right.
Don't think about what it is. Think about what it does. All right. If I told you that there was something to where your money can be liquid, you can get to it within 1 to 3 days. Your money is safe. You don't have to wake up and then go to sleep and wake up and you lost 30% of your principal. You get a good predictable rate of return, an average of 7 to 10%, and it's tax free. Wouldn't you say you would want that? But as soon as I call it life insurance, what you say? I don't need no life insurance. Don't think about what it is. Think about what it does. All right, let's talk about what it does. So here's how most people have their savings set up. All right, it's either taxable or tax deferred. And look at all these things. I'm pretty sure a lot of you have a majority of your money in these money vehicles, right? Might have a broke alternator, right? At least 40% of your retirement income needs to be tax-free. There's ways to do that. All right. So do we all agree that the first rule is we want our money to be tax-free? All right. That's the first rule. So the second rule is we want to protect our money against market losses. And there's something called lock in and reset. So I'm going to go with what lock in and reset is. So I'm going to ask y'all something. Let's say you had $100,000, right? If you had $100,000 and it went up 50%, how much did you just make? 50 grand. How much you got? All right. It went up 50%. It went down 50%. It went up 50%. It went down 50%. You just broke even, right? No. Because that's what they want you to think. When you look, when the average person speaks to their financial advisor or to their bank, and they show you that it went up 20, went down 20, went up 20, went down 20. Oh, that's what you just broke even. No, this is what actually happened. Yes, 50% of 100,000 is $50,000. So it went up to 150,000. What's 50% of 150,000? 75. So if it goes up 50%, goes down 50%, goes up 50%, goes down 50%, no, you didn't just break even. Now your money is sitting at $56,250. And a lot of y'all are realizing what's going on. And then some of you, how many people had a 401k at their job, and as long as they were contributing to it, it was going up? Because that's what was happening. As soon as you left that 401k, all of a sudden, it goes up maybe a little bit, but you're realizing it's not doing what it said it would do. Because what this is telling you is whatever you lose, you have to make at least double to break even. If you lose 50%, you have to make 100% to break even. All right, so let's look at the S&P 500 from January 2000 to March 2020, right? In January 2000, the market was up a positive 8.97%. And then I know a lot of people probably remember this. Over the next 3 years, it went down 3 years in a row. That came to a total of 43.59%. Let's call it 44% just to make it easy numbers. If you lose 44%, how much do you need to break even? 88. Because remember, whatever you lose, you have to do at least double to break even. Now, look what happened over the next 4 years. That very next year, it hit for 32.19%. Everybody with their money directly in the market started jumping and gyrating, right? But guess what? You needed at least 88 to break even. So over the next 4 years, what did it do? 57.34%. Did you break even yet? And then it went down again. That's what's happening. If you actually look at your returns with the money put directly in the market like this, this is what's happening. You're never getting a chance to break even. Do you know that the literal term for anybody that buys less than 100 shares at a time is an unsophisticated investor? According to them, you are an unsophisticated investor. What that means is by the time the writing is on the wall, all the people who had the insider knowledge has already moved their money around. And the average person is the one that takes the hit. So you want your money to not only be protected against taxes, you want your money to be protected against market losses. All right. So if anybody's familiar with Index Universal Life products, you probably heard that a lot of the indexes have 11% cap. Has anybody ever heard of that? And some people might say, oh, man, why would I settle for an 11% cap when I could be getting returns like 32%, returns like 55%. The reason why is you're getting those returns, but you're not breaking even. You need a vehicle that locks in and reset. So let's use that same $100,000 example. But this person had their money set up in a properly structured Index Universal Life product, right? The market drops 50%. So the person who had their money directly in the market, they down to $50,000, right? The person who have their money in a properly structured Index Universal Life policy, they didn't gain nothing that year, but they didn't lose anything due to market volatility. So you got one person at 50,000 and the person with their money inside of a properly structured Index Universal Life policy still at 100,000. And let's say that very next year it goes up 50%. What's 50% of 50,000? What's 50% of 50,000? 25,000. So if it went down 50% to 50,000 and then it goes up 50% to 75,000, once again, you still haven't broken even. However, if your money was in that properly structured Index Universal Life product and you had your money in a capped account, no, you did not get to experience that 50% jump. However, what's 100,000 plus 11%? 111,000. So while that person dropped down to 50,000 and they just got to experience that 50% return, they're sitting at 75,000. If your money was in a properly structured Index Universal Life policy that had lock in and reset, you're sitting at 111,000. Now imagine continuing to do that over and over again. Not only are you not losing money due to market volatility, but the money that's growing inside of it is tax deferred. Okay, hold on. Okay, there we go. All right. So we agree that we want our money to be tax-free. Say yes.
Yes.
We agree we want our money to be protected from market losses. Say yes.
Yes.
Now, how do you access your money? Has anybody ever all right, you borrow it. You borrow it. So, all right, so talk about this. As the typical consumer, we don't like to borrow. We do. Why don't we like to borrow? Interest. You got to pay it back. Right? Exactly. You don't like to borrow because of the interest, and you don't like to borrow because it pay it back. What if I told you you can borrow money and whatever interest you get charged, you get credited the same amount? What if I told you you can borrow money and you don't have to pay it back till after you're dead? If you don't got to pay it back till after you're dead, did you have to pay it back?
Get money from ribs.
All right, so I need y'all to take a picture of this screen. This screen is very important because I'm going to bring this up later on in the presentation. Okay, let me get by you. Y'all see it? What question?
So, you know how you're saying about you don't have to pay it until after you're dead? What, does family pay it after?
No. So what happens is whatever your death benefit is, whatever money that you didn't pay back, they subtract whatever you didn't pay back and then give your family the rest. That answer your question?
Borrow it all if you don't want to get nothing.
You can borrow it off if you don't want to get nothing. And actually, that's a trick, y'all. Like, so let's say, for example, because I'm going to show you how if you are in a bad life product. And the reason why I wanted you to take this picture is because this is how you can determine if your life insurance product isn't structured as well as it should be. All right. But let's say that you don't care about this. You tired of your life insurance policy. Just so y'all know, the best way to end your life insurance policy is to borrow everything out of it. Because if you surrender it, not only are you getting less than what you would have gotten if you borrowed it, but now you just created a taxable event. So I'm going to show you a better way to do it than just getting rid of it. But let's say if you just completely done with your cash value life insurance policy, you're better off borrowing every dollar out of it and letting it lapse than to withdraw it. Because this way is now you're not creating a taxable event. And either way, the policy is just going to lapse anyway. All right. So that's just a strategy for you. All right. But here's how you determine this is how we show you the power of lock in reset, everybody. All right. So these are real numbers. If you were to look up these numbers from the S&P 500, these are the actual returns. All right. So the S&P 500 in February 2019 was $2,779.83. That same time next year, the S&P 500 was $3,370.29. Whenever you see them showing you what the S&P 500 is doing, what they're doing is they're taking what it was last year and comparing it to what it is this year. That's point to point, right? So here's what you do. You take the ending value, which is the number that it was at February 2020, and then you subtract the beginning value, which is the number that it was in February 2019, and then you divide that difference by the beginning value. When you do that, you get your internal rate of return. I know it seems difficult right now, but that's why I want y'all to take a picture so y'all can see exactly what the formula is and exactly how you apply the formula, okay? So if you had your money directly in the market that year, you did 25.9%. That's not bad. All right. It's still taxable. Right. They're still going to charge you a fee for it, but that's not bad. Let's say you had your money in a properly structured index universal life policy. Yeah, the people in the market did 25.9 and you only did 11%. Boo-hoo. Right. But let's say that you had your money in the S&P 500 in March 2019, and it was $2,808.48. And then March of that very next year, it was $2,386.83, which is a difference of a negative $421.65. If you had your money in the market that year, you just lost 15%. If you lost 15%, how much do you need to break even? 30. All right. If you had your money in a properly structured index universal life policy, you lost nothing. Zero is your hero. All right, let's keep it going. So if you had your money in the market that very next month, that very next year, you made 16.75%. How much do they need to break even? Remember? How much they need? They needed at least 30% to break even. But guess what? So far, all they are is at 16.75%. If you had your money in that properly structured index universal life, because you have lock in and reset, you're already starting to earn your money back without having to make up the difference. Now, that said, yes, a majority of the indexes inside of a properly structured index universal life policy have a cap, but not all of them. You do have some uncapped indexes, and you should not put your money in an uncapped index without any particular knowledge and knowing what's going on. Ask me why.
Why?
Because when you put your money in an uncapped index, they charge what's called a participation rate. And typically the participation rate might be approximately 5%. So let's say you just got a average return of 10% and you had your money in an uncapped index. So now you got a return of 10%, but the participation rate is 5%. You only earned 5% that year. So that's why we don't just automatically put all of your money in an uncapped index. But let's say the market do what the market does and it crashes. That's when I hit you up and say, hey, Andre, I'm moving all my money to one of the uncapped indexes. What you want to do? You gonna move it with me? You'll think about it? I'm gonna move it. Because guess what? The reason why, whenever what happens, what goes down? All the time. So if the market crashes like the market always does, I'm going to take that opportunity to move my money to an uncapped index, because in March 2020, the market crashed and then it went all the way up. So if you had your money in the market, you just earned 64.8% that year. That was an amazing year. It's taxable. You didn't break even yet, but it was still an amazing year. If you took that opportunity to move your money to an uncapped index in a properly structured index universal life policy, once you take that 64.8% and you subtract the 5% participation rate, you just made 59.8% tax free. Yes.
You're earning the interest, does that not count for that?
No. So what it is there are two ways that they use to calculate what a MEC is. And just so y'all know, a MEC is what's called a modified endowment contract. All right. And if you have a properly structured life insurance policy, you don't want to MEC it up. Right. You don't want to MEC it up. Now, there are some people who have a lot of money that they have no intentions of using during their lifetime, and they want to transfer it to the next generation tax-free, a larger number. That's when they do what's called an endowment, when they put a large lump sum in at one time. And for them, that's a good idea because they have no intentions of touching the money. However, if you have a properly structured index universal life policy, you don't want to make it up. If we were doing the cash value accumulation test, then yeah, this could potentially make it up. But what we're doing is the premium test. We're using the premium test to determine what makes it a MEC or not. So even though it's getting such a huge return, because we're not doing the cash value accumulation test, we're doing the premium test. No, it doesn't turn it into a MEC. Yes, you choose it. And if there's anybody who has a life insurance license and you don't know where it is, reach out to me. I can show you. But yeah, if you put it and if you look at it, it says CVAT, CVAT. If you see that, you don't want it to be a CVAT. If you see that, you don't want it to be a CVAT, because you want your money to grow unencumbered. Right? So that answers your question, hopefully. Yes. All right. So if you had your money in there, so just imagine, and y'all, I use big numbers because I'm a big number guy, and I believe you are whatever you believe you get, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're probably right. That was a Henry Ford quote. And so I'm going to use $1 million. If you got less than $1 million, extrapolate lower. If you got more than $1 million, extrapolate higher. So just imagine if you had $1 million in your properly structured index universal life policy that year, you just made $600,000 tax free legally. All right. All right. So here's how you access the money. So a lot of people want to say, well, how do you borrow money and how does it earn money? So just so you know, whenever you borrow money from your life insurance policy, you're not actually borrowing your money. You're using your money as collateral to borrow other people's money. Technically, your money is still in there. So, for example, there are two columns when it comes to your life insurance policy. It's the accumulated value and it's the available cash value. Sometimes it's called surrender value, right? So remember this: accumulated value, available cash value, also known as surrender value. So right now, let's say somebody has $1 million in their accumulated and their available cash value, and it grows 10%. What's 10% of $1 million? 100,000. So now your accumulated value and your available cash value is $1,100,000. And let's say you borrow out $100,000. Remember, you didn't actually take your money out. Your money is still in there. I like to call them twin babies. And who don't like twin babies? You got a twin $100,000 here, and then you got the other twin still in your account earning interest. Because here how it goes: your policy loan has 100,000, so now your available cash value just dropped to $1 million. Even though your accumulated value is 1.1 million, your available cash value just dropped to $1 million. And guess what's going to earn the new 10% that very next year? Is it the available cash value or the accumulated value? The accumulated value. So 10% growth off of 1.1 million is now 1,210,000 of accumulated value. And then whatever you borrowed, and I'm not talking about a whole life policy. I'm talking about a properly structured index universal life policy. If they charge you 4.5%, guess what they're going to give you? They're going to credit you 4.5%. Whatever they charge you, they're going to credit you. Now, you have two options when they credit you that 4.5%. You can either make it a wash loan, or you can lose that 4.5% to buy upside options. Ask me, what are upside options? It's the option to buy it on the upside, right? What I like about the reason why I got so many designations is because the name tells you exactly what it does. If anybody ever wants to get an insurance license, just look at the name. The name tells you exactly what it does. An upside option gives you the option to buy a share on the upside. So what that means is, let's say a stock is selling at $50 a share, right? And then you put in 4.5% to say, hey, I want the option to buy this same time next year at $50 a share, no matter what it is, right? And then that very next year comes around. Now that stock is selling at $150 a share. Are you going to exercise that option or no? You're going to exercise that option because you just paid money to have the option. You paid $4,500 to have the option to buy it at $50 a share. Now, the insurance companies, they put a majority of their money inside of long-term bonds, right? They don't care about the stock market. They just use it as a measuring stick. And what they do is, as soon as they see that the market went up higher than what you have the option to buy it at, they're going to buy it and then they're going to immediately sell it. And then when they buy it and immediately sell it, they're going to take back their 4.5% interest and then they're going to give you the rest. Tax free. That is nice. It's better to be nice, right? So now you have a policy loan balance. And let me just finish that point. Now, we all know that the stock market doesn't always do good, right? On average, it's a risk. On average, out of every 10 years, there are 7 up years and 3 down years. Everybody say 7 up years, 3 down years. So that means 7 years out of 10, that's going to be a good bet on average. 3 years out of 10 on average. What happens when that time next year, the stock isn't $50, it's now $30. You just let your option expire. And guess what? Either way, you didn't have to pay this money back until after you were dead.
Dead people are rich, right?
Yeah, so dead people are very, very, well, they broke. They paying back all these bills, right? So I said all that to say this. The way you access your money is by borrowing against the money that's inside of your policy, but you're not actually borrowing your money. You're using your money as collateral to borrow other people's money. And whatever interest they charge you, they give you the option to get the credit for that exact same interest to buy upside options. And on average, 7 years out of every 10, they're going to execute that option. They're going to take back the interest that you owe them, and they're going to give you the rest. All right. And keep in mind, this is all growing inside of your policy tax free. So how is it tax free? Ask me, why is it tax free? Well, let me tell you. It's because the Internal Revenue Code 72E, Internal Revenue Code 7702, and Internal Revenue Codes 101A. Internal Revenue, huh? Sold. All right. 7702 says, 72E says, as long as it's considered a life insurance policy, it grows tax deferred. 7702 says, as long as you access the money correctly, you can get it tax free. And Internal Revenue Code 101A says, as long as it's considered a life policy, whatever money that you have left blossoms to a larger number and passes to your heirs tax free. So there's a company called E.F. Hutton. Who remembers E.F. Hutton? All right. So, that's the little thing they used to do. So E.F. Hutton in the 1980s was the first company to bring life insurance policies utilizing these codes to the masses. And when they brought it, there was a run on the bank. You were able to take out $1 million and instantly put in $1 million and have $1 million in life insurance and have it growing tax free. The IRS sued E.F. Hutton and the IRS lost. Yeah. And what happens when the IRS loses? They change the laws. That's when they had Tamra, Tefra, and Defra. Say it with me. Tamra, Tefra, Defra. Tamra, Tefra, Defra. And I know what you're thinking. And no, that is not the name of the supporting cast of beloved sitcom Moesha. You know Kimberly, Miles, Tamara, Tefra, Defra, right? No idea? You don't get the Moesha reference? Mo to the, E to the. Now realizing my responsibility. Say it. It's me. Oh, y'all heard that singing voice? Yeah. I got a good, I can hold the note. All right, so here is how you keep it a properly structured index universal life policy. Because here's the thing. You because of those changes in 1980, you have to follow these Tamra, Tefra, Defra rules in order to keep it. And a good way to symbolize it, it's like owning a 5-story building, right? What if I told you, as long as you rented out 1 story a year, and then every year you added a new story for the next 5 years, then after those first 5 years, it'll be completely tax-free, all of the money you're earning off your 5-story building. Would you do it? You said no? Yeah, whoa. So all right, so imagine this. Imagine you had a 5-story building and every story you were earning, let's say $10,000 a floor. Right? And they say, hey, I know you got 5 floors, but I only want you to rent out the first floor this first year. Yeah, you still got the same property taxes. Yeah, you still got the same utilities, but I only want you to rent out the first floor this year. All right. And then the next year, then you can rent out the second floor. And then the next year, then you can rent out the third floor. And then the next year, then you can finally rent out the 5th floor. After that, as long as you do it that way, yes, I know it's the most expensive in these first 5 years, but after these first 5 years, it turns into a tax-free cash cow. Would you do it? That's how you have to fund a properly structured index universal life policy. And if you set up a meeting with me, I'll show you how in the first 5 years, it's going to be the most expensive. But starting at that 6th year, you're going to be getting tax-free returns like you've never seen. OK, so some of you already have life insurance policies, and some of you have already sat through a presentation like this and you said, yeah, I like you, Randolph, but that ain't true. Right? You laughing. Get a couple drinks in her. She's going to laugh all night. All right. But check this out. Here's the thing. Remember I told you that on average, out of every 10 years, there's 7 up years and 3 down years. Now, the reason why a lot of people buy whole life policies instead of index universal life policies is because it's quote unquote guaranteed 2% floor. Right? That sounds good, but it only makes sense 3 years out of every 10. So in order to get that guaranteed 2% floor instead of a 0% floor like a properly structured index universal life policy, it's more strict. It takes longer to fund because you saw how I showed you can fund it within 5 years. If it's a whole life policy, it takes at least 7 years, right? It's designed primarily for death benefit. What an index universal life policy lets you do is it allows you to switch from what's called, and you know a lot about this. I didn't know you know a lot about it. Are you licensed? 26 years. Oh, there you go. So hopefully you can co-sign on at least most of the stuff I'm saying, right? So what happens is when you're dealing with a whole life policy, even if you max fund that whole life policy, it's still structured to stay in increasing mode, meaning the cash value plus the death benefit. And what ends up happening is instead of let's say you earned 11% that year. So when you structure a properly structured index universal life policy the correct way, on average, is going to be a cost of insurance plus administration costs of just 1%. So you earn 11, you pay the insurance company their 1%, you keep the 10. If you have a whole life policy that's structured to prioritize the death benefit, you're not going to be able to have it to where you're getting just a 1% cost of insurance and administration costs. It's going to be a lot more, right? And yeah, you got that 2% floor, and yeah, you got that quote unquote no lapse guarantee, but in my opinion, it's too expensive. And if you and the reason why I told y'all to take a picture. So here's how, regardless of whether or not you have a whole life product or index universal life product, here's how you know if it's performing well. What you do is you add up all of the premiums. Y'all remember that formula that I showed y'all at the beginning? What you do is you add up all of the premiums and then you subtract all of your premiums from your available cash value. And then once you get the difference, you divide that by all of the premiums that you paid into it. That's when you get your internal rate of return. And I guarantee you, I don't care who put your whole life policy together, that you got a return of internal rate of return of less than 3%. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. And if you don't know how to do the formula, all you have to do is order what's called an in-force illustration, and I will show you. If your life policy, whether it's a whole life or whether it's an index universal life policy, if you're not averaging 7%, it might be structured wrong, right? Okay, now I want to share all this with you. I know I said a lot of bad stuff tonight, but guess what, y'all? It's not your fault. All of you had financial advisors. A lot of you did. A lot of you had insurance agents. A lot of you had bankers. A lot of you had people that you counted on. And it's only 2 reasons that they didn't tell you this. Either they didn't know or they didn't care to tell you. Which one do you prefer? All right. So let's say a lot of y'all have heard of 1031 exchange. A lot of y'all have heard that, all right, I just sold this investment property. I just got a profit, and then I'm going to take this profit and I'm going to move it over to another investment property in order to not have a taxable event. There's also something called a 1035 exchange. Let's say you reach out to me and we do that formula and we look at the internal rate of return and we see that you're averaging less than 3% like I think you're averaging. Did you know you can do a 1035 exchange and switch it over to a better performing life insurance product? If we determine that your product isn't structured right, I can do what's called a 1035 exchange and get you into something better. Okay? Now, as I wrap up, I'm a wordsmith. I'm not that funny. I'm a wordsmith, y'all. I love words. My granddaddy, my auntie's father, she's in the back. How you doing, auntie? She loves when I call her out and make people look at her. Everybody look at her. My granddaddy, he was one of those people who, everything used to be door to door back in the day, y'all. Yep. He would buy the encyclopedias. He would buy the dictionaries. He was that guy. And still to this day, he has those encyclopedias in his house. He has those dictionaries in his house. I got multiple books from my granddaddy from the 1930s, the 1920s, right? The 1950s. I still read those books, right? And it's always a welcome surprise when I find an old note from my granddaddy from back in the day, written in that book, right? In cursive. He does write better than me. So in the Webster's dictionary, it says that an idiot, and this is the Webster's dictionary from the 1970s, before the political correctness, right? In the Webster dictionary, it says an idiot is somebody with the mental capacity of 0 to 3. And it says an imbecile is somebody with the mental capacity of 3 to 7. And if you look up the words idiot and imbecile in the dictionary or on Google today, it simply just says a stupid person. But guess what? I'm a wordsmith. So I wanted to look what the original definition of the word was. Do you know that the original definition of the word idiot was a private person? So when they say private person, they're saying the opposite of a public citizen. So if you were in the Senate, you were considered a public citizen. But if you were one of us, you were considered a private person. And it just evolved over the years. Some people say the government still consider us to be stupid people, right? So that's how it evolved. It evolved from a private person to a stupid person. And back then, the opposite of private person was the opposite of a public citizen, somebody in the government. So I said, hold up. So if the original definition of idiot is a private person, and a lot of people use idiot and imbecile interchangeably, and the Webster Dictionary from 1970s use it consecutively, I wonder what the original definition of imbecile is. Do y'all know what the original definition of imbecile is? A person without a supporting staff. Now, they're referring to a staff as a stick. Like, so you can walk with a staff. You can defend yourself with a staff. You can reach for something with a staff, just like a human staff. You can walk with a staff. You can defend yourself with your human staff. You can get your human staff to reach for something. All truths are parallel, right? So what they're saying is, if you are a private person without a supporting staff, you are an idiot and an imbecile. And I'm not even insulting you. I'm just calling you the original definition of the word. So there's a lot of you that are struggling. There's a lot of you that are in charge of your finances in your houses, but you're keeping it private and you don't have a supporting staff. And I'm sorry, according to the original definition, you need some help. So here's the thing. A lot of people have sat through these type of talks, and a lot of people tell me I'm the first person to make it make sense. Am I the first person to make it make sense to y'all? Yeah. Yes. Yes. So what they do is they say, hey, look, cuz, you remember that life policy you was telling me about? I want to get it started now. Randolph finally taught me what it meant. I want to utilize you to get it going. Y'all, let me tell y'all something. When I was growing up, I had to understand that everything is a tool. If you put a chainsaw in the hands of a skilled arborist, you're going to chop a tree down. But if you put it into the hands of a baby, you got a neglect lawsuit going on. You're going to jail. An index universal policy is just a tool. If I gave you Tiger Woods or Phil Mickelson's clubs, would you take it if you had the option of getting their swing?
Yeah.
The clubs mean nothing. It's all about the swing, right? And here's the thing. Sometimes you don't realize the difference between something until you compare it. When I was growing up, remember I grew up in the North Side. I grew up in Sherwood, right? And I remember when I was a kid, the Chrysler 300 came out. Y'all remember the Chrysler 300? A beautiful vehicle. The lines were straight. It looked good. It had the leather interior. And me and my friends growing up in our middle class, I used to say low income. My mama said, stop saying low income. We were middle class. I grew up in my middle class neighborhood. And whenever the Chrysler 300 used to pass by, we all used to stop our conversation and we used to look and say, look at that car. It looks just like a Bentley. It looks just like a Bentley. Until one day I grew up. And I was walking in a parking lot, and not only did I see a Chrysler 300 and a Bentley parked right next to each other, they were both the same color and they were both back then. And it was at that very moment that I said a Chrysler 300 looks nothing like a Bentley. Yes, you understand this now because I broke it down to you. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of agents out there that are just Chrysler 300s. Yes, a Chrysler 300 is a good car. It has good lines, it smells good, and it'll get you from A to B. But wouldn't you rather be in a Bentley? My name is Randolph Love III. If you schedule an appointment with me tonight, if you use this barcode and schedule an appointment with me tonight, I'll help you out. I'll get your estate set up, all estate planning. I do that and all trust and all that good stuff. And I'll give you a great discount if you schedule an appointment with me tonight. Anybody have any questions? Was I that good? All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. Once again, my name is Randolph Love III. Enjoy your food. Thank you.
Good stuff, bro.
Yes, yes.